dear children, today we are going to start a new chapter, our environment. I know all of you are familiar with the term environment. Am I right? Yes. We know government is implementing so many policies to protect the environment. You know, non-governmental organizations, they are concerned about the environment, and every year we celebrate a day as World Environment Day. Then can you tell me why we are giving this much importance to our environment? Yes, this environment helps an organism to survive properly. That's very important. Then what are the components of the environment? What all things are there in the environment? Yes, it's the biotic factors as well as what? Abiotic factors. Biotic factors, as we all know, they're the living components, and abiotic factors, they are the non-living components. So these two are there and they should interact with each other properly, that help an organism to survive. So we know that our environment should be favorable enough for an individual, for an organism to survive or live properly. So we are giving this much importance to our environment. So in the last year, you studied about biogeochemical cycles. Can you tell me some of the examples of biogeochemical cycle? Yes, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, water cycle, oxygen cycle, etc. Isn't it? Then what actually this cycle means? You know this, the carbon cycle, the gas is very important, isn't it? So oxygen, another important gas. You know the nitrogen, another important gas. Water, of course, we all know the importance of it. They all are recycling in the nature. Of course, we the human beings are unknowingly involved in it. All the other organisms are involved in it, but still there should be a cyclic process takes place in our environment. It's for the healthy survival of any organism. So it is because of that we are giving this much importance to our environment. So in the beginning, we can just see how the waste we throw out or discard, and what happens to waste we discard every day. Discard means what? Throw out. So now you all are sitting at home, isn't it? So it's very easy for you to observe the waste that we generate in our own houses. Can you say some of the examples of waste that we generate in our own houses? Yes, it may be the kitchen waste, of course. You know, vegetable peel, fruit peel, then chicken waste, fish waste, eggshells, then leftover food, unwanted food items, rotten food items, rotten vegetables. Not only that, when we are buying the milk, curd, etc. in the cart, or the covers, that cover we want to dispose, the medicine bottles we want to dispose, lotions we are buying, isn't it? For cleaning lotions, that bottle we want to dispose. So many items are there, isn't it? Every day we are supposed to dispose all these things. So I will suggest you an activity to perform. So collect this waste, right? The one day's waste, and if you are in a space in the backyard, then you can dig a pit. If you don't have enough space, you can do one thing. You can take a old bucket and dump this waste. One day's waste enough. Just want to do test, and that day's waste in a bucket, and add soil. Nearly to 20% of the bucket should be filled with the soil. Clear? Then moisture that bucket or soil regularly for nearly 15 days. What is actually moisturing? It's just add sprinkling the water. Don't pour 1 or 2 glasses or mugs of water into it. Just sprinkle the water because for what we are moisturing it in the moist condition only microorganisms grow. Otherwise, if they're in the dry condition, you couldn't see much microorganisms there. So for the healthy growth of the microorganisms, we want to water or moisten that waste regularly, the soil. So continue doing it for nearly 15 days, 15. After 15 days, when we observe the bucket, can you just guess what all things we can see there in that bucket, in that soil? Can we see the food waste? Can we see the kitchen waste? Can we see the vegetable peel? Can we see the eggshell? Yes. Can we see the polythene cars? Can we see the plastic bottles? Yes. These plastic bottles, if you throw the glass bottles, if you dispose the tin, all should be there, all could be seen there in that bucket. But what happened to this food waste, fish waste, etc.? They all have mixed with the soil. So from this we could understand that we can classify two different types of waste. We can differentiate the waste into two types. One type of waste can be easily mixes with the soil with the help of whom? Who helps in the mixing up of the soil? Mixing the waste in the soil? Yes, it is the microorganism. So a group of waste are there that can be mixed with the soil with the help of microorganisms. Such waste are known as what? Yes, you all know it because from the smaller classes onwards you are studying it. Biodegradable waste. The waste that can be mixed with the soil with the action of microorganisms. Such waste are known as what? Biodegradable waste. Then you could see some waste that not undergo degradation. Plastic bottles, metallic tins, metallic cans, and glass bottles, etc. that takes much time, or sometimes they cannot be degraded, and such waste are known as non-biodegradable waste. So, biodegradable waste and the non-biodegradable waste. Biodegradable waste easily mixes with the soil with the help of decomposers like bacteria. And what about the non-biodegradable waste? Yes, they cannot be mixed with the soil with the action of microorganisms. So, hope it is clear, because you have been studying about this from the 4th or 5th standard. You have been studying about this biodegradable and non-biodegradable. And you know that in the first chapter, that is life processes, you had already studied about different types of enzymes. Saliva enzyme is there, stomach enzyme is there, pancreas enzymes are there. So, have you ever thought what's the function or what's the need of these many enzymes in our body? What's the function of these many enzymes? Yes, absolutely right. They help in what? Digestion. So, why can't a single enzyme digest all these food materials? Why can't a single enzyme? No, a single enzyme cannot digest all the food materials. You know why? Enzymes are specific in their action. What? Enzymes are specific in their action. That means a single enzyme can digest a particular type of food items. It's because of that numerous enzymes are there in our body to digest all the type of food that we eat. You know that coal, coal, it gives energy. Then why can't you eat coal? If you eat the coal, does the coal provides us energy? Why? Because in our body, an enzyme is absent to digest the coal. Coal digesting enzyme is not there in our body. So our body cannot digest what? Cannot digest the coal. Clear? Similarly, in the soil also, as we had already seen, some substances cannot be mixed with the soil. Such microorganisms are absent. The microorganisms that are used to decompose the plastic, metal, bottle, etc. that are absent in the soil. It's because of that these non-biodegradable waste, they will accumulate in the soil. They can cause soil pollution. They can cause water pollution. They can cause, even when we burn it, it can result in air pollution, and it can lead to the death of the human beings, animals, etc. It can affect the growth of the plants also. So when we dump the non-biodegradable waste, as we all know, we are polluting the environment, we are polluting soil, water as well as air. So this non-biodegradable waste can affect the environment very much. Clear? Of course, this biodegradable waste also, when we dump the biodegradable waste for so many days without proper care, what happened to that area? Smell starts coming from it, isn't it? Not only the smell, flies and other organisms can grow there. It can come and sit on the food items that we prepare. So the disease can be spread through it. So both conditions, this biodegradable waste is also, if such waste accumulate in the our environment, it can also be dangerous. It can result different types of diseases. Non-biodegradable waste, if they accumulate, they can cause different types of pollution. So we want to dispose these two waste properly to protect our environment. Hope it is clear. So the soil does not have different types of microorganisms to digest the plastic, metallic particles, newspapers, etc. It takes much time, sometimes years and years, for the newspaper to get decomposed. Plastic and all just remain in the soil. Sometimes we cannot see it from outside, because if new soil is formed, this will go underground. But definitely it will be there. So that is about the biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Clear? Yes. Now, we know that the things that are present in the environment. Just we can recall it once again. What are they? Yes, plants are there, animals are there, birds are there, microorganisms are there. Are they all independent? Can the plant leads an independent life? Or can the bird leads an independent life? No, all the organisms, can we live an independent life? Absolutely no. Isn't it? We can't. Because all the living organisms are interacted with each other. All the organisms, they interact with each other. That's very, very important thing. All the living organisms, plants, animals, birds, microorganisms, they all interact with each other. If they interact with each other, can they live comfortably? If they interact with each other only, can they live comfortably? No, then what? Yes, there should be an interaction with the abiotic factors. There should be an interaction with the abiotic factors also. What are these abiotic factors? Air, soil, water, sunlight, temperature. All these are very, very important for the growth and survival of any living organism. So there should interaction among the all living organism and with the what? And with the abiotic factors, and such a system, it is known as what? Ecosystem. What is ecosystem? It's an interaction of living organism. Interacting, all the organisms are interacting. Plants prepare the food, we eat it. Then different types of organisms are eating and being eaten. That we will discuss later in this chapter itself. So all are interacted. Without plants, plants give us oxygen, plants give us food. So without the plant, we cannot live. Similarly, the birds, animals, etc. All the organisms that the God has created, it has its own role in the world. We can't say that one is bad or one is good. All the organisms, even though if you don't like some organisms, we may say that they are causing problem, but still they also have their own role in this environment. For cleaning the environment, for maintaining the healthy environment, which every organism created or there in this earth grace, they have its own role. Sometimes we may not agree with it because we may not like some, but still you should understand, even though we may like or not, every minute organisms also, they have their own role. And you may ask, now this virus, virus, isn't it? It is causing so much problems. So you may have confusion. What's the need of this virus, coronavirus, COVID-19? Because of that only we all are sitting at home, isn't it? Yes. So I don't have answer for that question. But still, as far as our experience and all, I could say that each and everything has its own role in the society, in the environment. Clear? Okay. So then what come to the ecosystem again? It's an interactive system of living organism with the non-living components. All are interacted. Plants are related with the soil, plants are related with the water, plants are related with the sunlight. So likewise we all are interacted. Can you imagine a day without the sun? Can you spend a day without drinking water? Can you imagine a day without, I think, 1 minute without breathing? So all these things are interrelated, isn't it? So that interacting system, that system is known as what? Ecosystem. Living organisms are interacting. Not only that, they are interacting with or they are dependent on the non-living factors. Clear about the ecosystem? So that sustaining system is known as what? Ecosystem. And just look at the garden. What all things we can see in the garden? Grass, plants, trees, frog, grasshopper, snake, etc. Isn't it? So we could see, and all these are interacted, or all these are interdependent. You know, grass, plant, grass depend on grass, grasshopper depend on grass, and grasshopper is eaten by the frog. So likewise, all these living organisms are interrelated. And the growth, reproduction and other activities of these organisms are influenced by what? Temperature, soil, air, water, etc. Or of course in the garden, all the living grass, grass, plants, trees and birds, animals, they all are interrelated. But the growth, reproduction and all other activities of these organisms are influenced. Who is controlling this? Temperature plays a very important role. Sunlight, water, rainfall, soil, humidity, water content, the presence of different types of gases. They all have an important role in the growth, development of all the living organisms. So we can call this garden as an ecosystem. We can call the garden. A typical example of an ecosystem, it is the garden can be called as an ecosystem. Can call garden as an ecosystem. Why? Because in the garden we can see grass, trees, plants, grasshopper, frog, snake, etc. and they all interact with each other. Not only that, they have an interaction with whom? Interaction or their growth, reproduction and all the activities are under the control of non-living factors like the temperature, humidity, soil, water, air, etc. Clear? So we can call garden as an ecosystem. Can you suggest some other examples of ecosystem? Very good. Forest is a typical example of ecosystem. Then, aquatic ecosystem, pond. So, this is an example of terrestrial ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem. This is an example of aquatic ecosystem. Of course water, and this is the terrestrial. And the one difference is there in between this garden and the forest. Who can tell me the difference between the garden and the forest? Garden is man created, isn't it? We are creating the garden. But what about the forest? Are we creating the forest? Of course, we can recreate the forest, but normally we are not doing anything to create a forest. So the forest is an example of natural ecosystem. Very, very important thing. A forest is an example of natural ecosystem. But the garden is an example of, yes, artificial ecosystem. Forest is an example of a natural ecosystem because it is created naturally, or it has created naturally. But in the case of garden, it has not created naturally. It's a man-made. So we can call it as what? Artificial ecosystem. Then what about the pond? It's an example of natural ecosystem, isn't it? Because pond, we are not creating the pond. But crop field. It's an example of artificial ecosystem, crop field. We are creating it. It is not created as such, and we are creating the crop field. So it is an example of artificial ecosystem. These examples, please note down the examples. This can be asked for the examination. Even though this chapter is very small, but you can expect so many questions from this chapter. So please don't take this chapter very lightly. It's very simple chapter because many of the points you have already studied in smaller classes. But please don't ignore it because the simple questions can be repeatedly asked for the examination. So my dears, so please note down the examples and all. It can be repeatedly asked. So natural ecosystem, pond is an example of aquatic natural ecosystem. Forest is an example of natural terrestrial ecosystem. Then garden is an example of artificial ecosystem, artificial terrestrial ecosystem, and crop field is an example of artificial aquatic ecosystem. So this should be thorough. You should note down the examples. Okay, natural ecosystem, pond as well as the forest, artificial garden as well as the crop field. So in all these ecosystem, we could see the interaction between interaction among the various organisms, and they interact with what? Interact with the non-living factors also. Clear? So that interaction we can call it as, that system is known as what? Ecosystem. Is it clear? Yes. Now you can just think about an aquarium. Many of you have the aquarium at home now, or many of you had it already, or many of you have at least seen the aquarium. So what are the things that we see in the aquarium? Tell me. Yes, of course, fish. Then, should be enough space for the fish to move depending upon the number of fishes. Of course, we need to change the size of the aquarium. Yes. Then I want to provide what? Oxygen, isn't it? Yeah, aerators should be there. Then we put some pebbles and all to make it more beautiful. And if you add some aquatic plants, definitely, water plants, then definitely it will be a perfect ecosystem. What are they? We get fish, big tank should be there. Then we want to provide fish food, another important thing. Okay, food should be provided, air should be provided, and if you could keep aquatic plants, the system will be perfectly okay. That ecosystem will be perfectly okay. Clear? Yes. So after making an aquarium or after creating an aquarium, we are supposed to clean the aquarium regularly. Am I right? Yes. If you are not cleaning the aquarium for so many months, what will happen? Yes, you have said it. The fish will die. Why? Because the pond also. Just compare the pond with the aquarium. Are we cleaning the pond regularly? Then why we are cleaning the aquarium? Very important question for the examination. Why we are cleaning the aquarium, but why we are not cleaning the pond? In the aquarium, when the fish die, or if fish waste is there, no substances or no organisms are there to decompose the waste. We are not adding any decomposers into the aquarium. We are not doing it. So the waste should be cleaned. We want to change the water regularly because the fish waste is there, food waste is there, all should there, and that make the water dirty, and sometimes the fish may die, due to some reasons. So that should be removed from it. Otherwise it can affect other fish. But in the pond it is not like that. Pond, inside the pond decomposers are there. In the pond, who is there? Decomposers are there. So they decomposes the waste. In the pond, decomposers. What are decomposers? Yes, that break down the waste and mixes with the soil. So in the pond, decomposers are there, but unfortunately in the aquarium, no such decomposers. So we are supposed to clean the aquarium regularly. Very important question for the examination. Hope it is clear. In the aquarium, we couldn't see any decomposers, so the waste that are produced by the fish and food waste, etc., they will remain as such. They will pollute the water and it affects the organism living in it. But in the case of pond, these decomposers are there. They will purify the water and they decompose the waste, and that they will make the water clear. Clear? Yes. That is the main difference between the aquarium and the pond. We don't want to clean the pond. Of course, once in a while we also clean the pond. But still, aquarium is not like that. We want to clean it regularly. Clear, children? Yes. Now, I would like you to recall different types of, different types of organisms are living around us, isn't it? We could see varieties of birds, plants, animals, microorganisms, etc. So, can we categorize them into different groups? Can we categorize it? Please recall, because you had already studied in smaller classes, the organisms, living organism I am talking about, the living organism that we see around us, we can categorize into main 3 groups. Just recall. Yes, first one is what? Producers. Second one, consumers. Last one, decomposers. These 3 terms are very much familiar to you, isn't it? Producers, consumers and decomposers. Tell me, what are the producers? Producers prepare the food with help of raw materials available in the nature, isn't it? They prepare the food by themselves. Then who are these consumers? Consumers, they depend upon the producers for the food, or depend upon other organism. Consume is what? Getting something and have it. That is consuming. Yes, they depend upon other organism. It may be plant or it may be other animals for the survival. And what about the decomposers? They decompose the waste, isn't it? We know we all generate, you had already seen it, generate the everyday waste. So the waste we are throwing out to the environment, and the duty of the decomposers is to clean out the environment. They decompose the waste, and that waste will mixes with the soil. So that is the duty of the decomposers. So the organisms that we see around us can be categorized into 3 groups: producers, consumers and decomposers. So producers, example, who? Yes, plants. Consumers can be grouped. Different types of consumers are there. That also you know it. Tell me. Consumers, 3 groups are there. Yes, herbivorous, carnivorous, next omnivorous, scavengers, parasites. So they can be grouped into different categories: consumers, herbivorous, carnivorous, omnivorous, scavengers and parasites. Okay, so clear. So what are these herbivorous? They feed on plant-eating organisms, are known as what? So you know it. Just we can revise it, because this can be asked for the examination. Herbivorous, plant-eating organisms are known as herbivorous. Then what about carnivorous? Flesh-eating organisms are known as carnivorous. Example of carnivore: lion, tiger, etc. Next, what about omnivore? Combination of these 2, isn't it? We come under which group? Yes, omnivore, because we eat both plants as well as what? Animals. Such organisms are known as what? Are known as omnivores. Then what about the scavengers? They feed on the dead organisms only. You know, vulture is a typical example. Vulture, you know, when I say the name vulture, you know, you should are getting a picture of the vulture in your mind, isn't it? Horrible picture. So that vulture, it feeds. A crow is also a scavenger. Even though we see crow around us, it doesn't give us a horrible look or terrible look. But you know, the vulture, that appearance itself make us feel afraid. So this vulture, they feed on the dead organisms only. And finally, it's parasite. You depend upon other organism by causing harm to them. Clear? So these are the different types of consumers and decomposers. You know, bacteria and different types of microorganisms. They come under which group? Decomposers. So clear? So today we have discussed about what environment is, what's the importance of environment, and what is ecosystem, the sum total of the interaction of the living organism with the non-living components. It is known as what? Ecosystem. We discussed about 2 different types of ecosystem: natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem. Natural ecosystem, pond and the forest. Artificial ecosystem, garden and the crop field. And next we discussed about why we are supposed to clean the aquarium but we are not supposed to clean the pond, because in the aquarium there is no decomposers to decompose the waste, but in the pond decomposers are there. It's a complete ecosystem. Next we discussed about the different groups of organisms that we see around us: producers, consumers and decomposers. And again we classified the organisms that come under consumers to different groups. They are the herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, scavengers and finally the parasites. And decomposers, they feed on the dead remains. And with this we come to the end of this class. Next class we will discuss further about it. So read the textbook, my dear children. Okay, then until we meet in the next class, be safe, study properly. Bye. Take care.